There's something inside us which knows that's it. And so then after that, our practice is to stabilize that realization until finally we are able to remain in that state of clear, naked awareness as often as we want to, and then to integrate that with daily life. I mean, it's not that we all become like spaced out zombies, you know, just sitting there, right? You know, I mean, when one thinks of the great masters, they are so alive, so vivid, so clear, more than ordinary people. It's not that they are you know, kind of unable to function. I mean, they function 100% better because the ego is not getting in the way. And therefore they have a clarity of seeing things how they really are and not how it's distorted through our conceptual consciousness. So they have that, and that sense of interconnection with all beings, all living beings, not just humans. So that there is tremendous compassion because we mess everything up. We have such great potential, and look what we do with it. And so naturally compassion arises. And so the clearer we see the situation, the more compassion comes.
How and by what means can one transform everyday life into a meditation, as you told?
Well, I think it's, first of all, we should, you know, how to turn the mind, what is the question? How to...
You said just from that about all that remains is to integrate it in everyday life, the meditation. So how?
Be aware, be present. Don't get caught up endlessly in the past. Don't get endlessly fantasizing about the future unless you need to make plans. But, you know, we all need to become more present, more mindful, more aware, and to open up the heart so that we embody loving awareness in everything which we do. You know, and instead of being swept away by our endless conceptual thinking, that we are here now with this, what is happening in this moment, how to then naturally it becomes obvious what to do. I mean, our responses become spontaneous. We don't have to sit and think about it. How shall I deal with this situation? It will become obvious.
So our daily life has to be also a meditation.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, the great masters, that's the point. When we meet great masters, we know that they are in a state of complete presence. They're here, they're with us, and great love. We just feel it, you know. I mean, you know, I'm sure you've met many great masters, and this is the feeling that you get with them, that they are totally present with you. And with that, they have this total non-judgmental love and compassion for who you are, whoever you may be, right? It's just there. It's like the sun shines, you know. It doesn't think, I'm going to shine on this lot, but I don't like those over there. I'm not going to shine on those. It just shines. And if we sit in the sun, we get the sun. If we go in the shade, then we're in the shade. But the sun is shining.
Yetsuna, you said also about meditation. For any practice to have effect, the meditating mind and the object of meditation must merge. Instead, most of the time, they face each other. My question, we are continually confronted with this facing, and we can't get out of it. How can we do this?
You know, first of all, I think it's very important to relax and not try too hard. you know, because that who is it who wants to get something? It's the ego, really, you know. So just to relax and allow the mind to be as it is. Keep the sessions fairly short, not pushing too hard. And to try to bring, you know, allow the mind just to be more calm, more collected, more quiet, more present, and then to bring that feeling into our daily lives as much as possible. But, you know, it's very important, I think, not to pressure the mind to achieve something. What am I gaining from this? You know, I mean, it's not a matter of what we're gaining. And it's just moment to moment, we try to understand the mind and to bring the mind more and more to a state of inner calm and inner clarity. So we see things more clearly. Most people never look at their mind. Have you realized that? I mean, we live in a world of thought. And yet most people have never asked themselves, what is thought? Like fish in the ocean, you know, they never ask what is water. So therefore we're trapped in our mind.
But Jetsumna, relax, which kind of effect has on ego? You said we have to relax. What impact of the relaxation on ego? It will relax the ego, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, stop forcing the mind to do what you think it should be doing. But I mean, if we don't push the mind when we're meditating, but if we allow it to become open and spacious and relax and just watch it, that reveals so much without trying to make the thoughts during meditation, right? Not to make the thoughts any particular way, just to observe the thoughts. Just watch them going by, like someone's sitting on the banks of the river, watching the river going by. You know, sometimes rubbish goes by, sometimes nice, you know, beautiful fish go by, sometimes swans go by, sometimes anything goes by, but we're just watching it, you know, we're not interfering.
But sometimes even in meditation or even in daily life, we saw that our mind is working even against us, and he is doing what we don't want to do, or he is thinking on something which is not good. So how to deal with this?
Well, in meditation, that cannot happen, because whatever comes up in the mind is just a thought. It's not a good thought or a bad thought or a stupid thought or a wise thought. It's just a thought. It's just bubbles. And we're not clinging to them, right? We're letting them go by. So even if we have a really stupid thought, it doesn't matter, because the next minute we've got another thought, right? We're not holding the thoughts or developing them or thinking, wow, that's a brilliant thought. I must think about that more. In meditation, we just allow everything just to pass by. Someone said it was like being in a train, looking out of a train window. And sometimes we go past slums, and sometimes we go past beautiful countryside. But whatever we are passing, we're just passing. We're not getting out the train. In other words, we're not stopping. We're just letting everything flow past. Right? So this is what we do. In meditation, we just observe the mind and allow everything just to pass by, recognizing it's just all passing phenomena. It's just thought. It's not me. It's not mine. It's just, you know, psychic energy.
Yeah, but sometimes
during the day, we can be more careful. During the day, we should be more aware. And when we have thoughts which are connected with negative roots, like greed or anger or pride, jealousy, you know, anything like that, then we should notice that and try to then change it, transform it into something more positive. Like if we're feeling very angry, then to cultivate patience. If we're feeling greedy, then to cultivate generosity or contentment and so forth. So during the day, we should be more careful of our mind and take care of it. But when we are meditating on the mind, then we should just allow the mind to do whatever it wants, because the thoughts themselves are not the point. The point is our insight into the nature of the thoughts.
Sometimes, especially in daily life, many thoughts are clinging and always coming back, and bad thoughts.
Yes, so then we should be careful. We should notice that. Say, think that's a greedy thought, that's an angry thought, and stop there. Okay, right. Now, let's change that thought. That is not a useful thought. That is a stupid thought. I'm going to change that thought. That's what, you know, we have to tame the mind. The Buddha said we have a mad monkey mind, right?
Yes.
So we have to tame the monkey. And when we have quietened down the monkey, then we can train the monkey to be a good monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And that trained monkey is a transformed monkey. It's not like an ordinary monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what we're doing. We're working with our own mind. It's not out there, the problem. The problem is in here. And once we recognize our happiness depends on a well-tamed mind, a mind which is filled with good thoughts, useful thoughts, happy thoughts, then we, you know, then an inner joy begins to grow, because we become the masters of our mind instead of being the slaves of our mind, which most people are. You know, their feelings, their moods, they're completely engulfed in it. They have no control. So this is what we're trying to do, is to learn who's going. I have to take my mind with me. Then who's going to be in charge? Why should this stupid ego, ignorant mind be giving all the rules? It's horrible. That's why people are so miserable, because their minds are so completely out of control. It has nothing to do with, you know, outer circumstances. Some of the most wealthy people in the world are also some of the most miserable. Some of the poorest people in the world could be some of the most joyful. It has really not that much to do with outer circumstances. It has so much, everything to do with our inner landscape. And that we can change. I mean, this is a good thing, Louis. We can't change the whole of society, but we can change ourselves.
Yes. What about thoughts during when we are into bed? We are not totally sleeping. We are between sleeping and be aware. And so many thoughts, it is like during meditation, and some clinging thoughts. So how to deal with them?
I mean, the thing is that with all these thoughts and feelings, if we recognize them for what they are, then we can let them go. I mean, somebody said that the real mantra of Buddhism is let go, let go, let go, because the mind always clings. The Buddha said that our suffering is due to our clinging mind. So once we begin to see that, how it works, then we can begin to untie the knots, right? And in fact, it is said that it is not really like a rope which is tied in many, many knots. It's like that you have to untie it. It's actually a snake which is tied in knots. Yeah. So if you leave the snake alone, he will uncurl himself. So if we look at our mind, then if we see the mind, then of itself, it will begin to release. That's what meditation is for. It's to release the mind.
What kind of meditation did you do in the cave? And what meditation do you continue to practice now?
Well, when I was in the cave, I mostly did a lot of deity practices and a lot of mantra recitations, because that's what my Lama told me to do. So that's mostly what I was doing. And nowadays I do some deity practice, but mostly I just do sitting meditations.
What do you mean by sitting meditation?
Sitting, looking at the mind.
Without any special technique or method of...
Oh yeah, it's a kind of Mahamudra. It's called Mahamudra.
Because always, especially in the day of non-violence, you advise always watching the breath. Are you doing it? And why you always advise this special meditation?
Well, you know, I mean, all the problems that we have in the outer world, almost all of them have been caused by our inner defilements of the human beings living on this planet. I mean, it's not the animals, it's the humans. And we as humans have, of course, enormous potential. Undoubted, we all have, you know, our Buddha nature. But in the meantime, it's so completely clouded over. And we are so driven by our greed, like anything, and our aggression and jealousy and competition and our fundamental egoistic ignorance, which then, of course, comes out in what we say, in what we do, in how we relate in society, and how we use our planet, and how we regard others. You know, this is my friend, this is my enemy. You know, I mean, all our delusion is creating all the troubles that we experience in the outer world. Of course it is. It all comes from you know, from ourselves. I mean, if our minds were peaceful, kind, generous, and non-discriminating between people, this is my friend, this is my enemy, but everybody is considered to be our friend, worldwide, we would be living on a totally different planet. And religion is as much to blame as anyone, because religions are very, very divisive, which is too bad, because their founders were saying one thing, their followers are going in the opposite direction, right?
Let's you praise the effects of imagination by saying, creative imagination is in itself an incredibly powerful force. If properly channeled, it can reach very deep layers of the mind, layers that cannot be accessed through speech or mere analysis. Because at a deep level, we think in images. If we use images from an awakened mind, it awakens very deep levels in our own mind. Page 177. My first question, what do you mean by channeling the imagination proper?
Well, you know, what I'm trying to say is we were talking in relationship with deity yoga, where you see yourself as the deity or the Buddha. And that the creative mind is deeper than the intellectual mind, which thinks in words, right? The creative mind thinks in images. So therefore, this is the skillful means of deity practice. It helps us to access levels of consciousness which are not reached through analytical thought, right? So therefore, if in deity yogas, the deity yogas, they were created by an awakened consciousness. And so it's a conduit down to the consciousness of the originator of that particular images, you know? So for example, you know, if we visualize ourselves as Mickey Mouse,
Yeah.
then we would access the consciousness of Walt Disney. But do we want to, you know? So that's the point. Whereas if we actualize the vision of enlightened beings, then it activates at a deep level our own enlightened qualities. And so it's a very skillful way of reaching to deep levels within ourselves, which mirror that of the enlightened beings who created these practices in the first place.
That's what you mean by...
Voilà, oui, je vais changer de dossier. Voilà, j'en ai pour 2 minutes. Voilà, donc à partir de là, donc oui, on va passer à l'anglais. Donc là, je vais vous traduire. Hein, voilà, donc on va passer, je vais vous traduire directement. Donc déjà, voilà, donc ça, juste. Oui, alors, je vais quand même rechercher le bon document. Parce que j'ai commencé à relire l'anglais. Mais on n'a pas eu le temps de faire la traduction française. Donc, je vais retrouver le document. Ensuite, je vous mettrai les documents sur le chat. Et puis, la fois prochaine, on aura... voilà, là. Donc, voilà.
the term exactly images from an awakened mind.
Yes, the great Mahasiddhas.
Donc, quelles sont les images qui viennent d'un esprit éveillé?
Great practitioners of the past who wrote the sadhanas, who wrote these practices, their enlightened mind perceived these things. And then they wrote them down. And by practicing that, it takes us down to this level of awareness and consciousness, which is beyond the mere intellectual, analytical kind of mind.
Donc, les grands praticiens du passé qui ont écrit ces sadhanas, ces pratiques, ils ont perçu ces choses avec leur esprit illuminé. Donc, en pratiquant ces civilisations, ça nous ramène à ce niveau d'éveil, de conscience qui est au-dessus de type d'esprit qu'on a, c'est-à-dire analytique et conceptuel.
That's what about what about images? What about sensations of the body? There is images and there is also sensation during meditation.
Well, you know, I mean, people, especially if they are activating the various chakras, you know, experience many different experiences. And depending on what kind of practices you're doing, there are different kinds of experience. For many people experience great clarity, great bliss, great lightness, in all sorts of things. The important thing is not to cling to that. I mean, it's a nice visions on the way, nice landscape, but it's not the goal. And the problem is that people cling to it because it's very nice.
Mm.
Donc, que faire des sensations du corps pendant la méditation? Bon, ça dépend des méthodes que vous suivez, mais en particulier quand les personnes activent les chakras, ils peuvent avoir des expériences très variées. Ça dépend de la pratique que vous faites. Beaucoup de gens expérimentent une grande clarité, une grande félicité, une grande légèreté. Cependant, la chose importante est ne pas s'accrocher à cela. C'est une vision qui est jolie sur le chemin, un paysage qui est joli, mais ce n'est pas le but. Pourtant, le problème est que les gens s'attachent à cela parce que c'est très joli et agréable.
And also, we should not think about sensation. Sometimes we have good sensations, other times we have bad sensations.
Donc, est-ce qu'on ne doit pas aussi être attaché aux sensations parce qu'on a des fois des bonnes sensations, des mauvaises sensations?
Exactly. It's all just sensation. I mean, not to cling or to have aversion, but just to be aware, conscious of this is what's happening. It's impermanent, it will pass.
You say about spiritual retreats. In retreat, you see your nature in its raw state, and you have to face it. 178. So my question, what effect can one have from an intensive retreat that one cannot have from a daily meditation practice?
Well, obviously, a long retreat is much more intense, right? And also there's no running away. You know, you can't distract yourself because you're there and that's all you're doing. So like one is digging away, you know, day and night. It's constant. So, you know, so really, for most people, I think periods of retreat, I mean, it doesn't have to be long retreats, but periods when you're totally absorbed in the practice, and that's all you're thinking about, and you're no outer distractions, nothing to dilute the practice, just the practice, and then they practice, you know, after that when you leave retreats. So, you know, it's very important to, like anything, if you want to really become proficient, you have to dedicate enormous amounts of time to doing it. You know, just doing it a little bit every day is not going to work. We need to, you know, give our whole self to it. And then the rest of the time during the day to try to cultivate the practice as much as we can, especially being aware and being good-hearted, being kind.
But just from this facing ourselves, normally we run away from this facing of our own nature in our normal life. It scares us. Should we always face it? People normally like to run away. They don't like.
Well, you know, this is the point. If we run away because of some, for example, some traumatic past experience, and we sit and meditate and then that comes up, etc., like this, then if that happens again and again and again, it might actually be sensible to have some psychotherapeutic treatment also. I mean, meditation and psychiatry could go together if there are really, really serious problems that we're running away from. Because maybe we don't have the strength to deal with it. It comes up very powerfully, we're, you know, crushed by it. And if one is mentally unstable, then also one should be very, very careful, because meditation could bring up a lot of things. I mean, sometimes I say it's like, you know, if you think of the mind like an ocean, right? then normally we're living on the surface waves of the ocean, right? We're going up with the waves, we're going down with the waves. Sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're worried, sometimes we're joyful, up and down, up and down, up and down. But as we learn to meditate, then the waves begin to get calm, and then we begin to go below the surface of the ocean, into the depths of the ocean. Now, in the depths of the ocean, one certainly could meet with friendly dolphins and very beautiful golden fish and all sorts of lovely things in there. But there are also sharks. There are also stinging rays. There are also all the monsters of the deep. And the deeper you go down, the more weird things are down there. And unless one is really very mentally balanced, it might be too much, especially if people do have monsters of the deep in their consciousness. You know, some people have very traumatic experiences from, you know, the past, from their childhood or from their life that they don't know how to face, and they don't have the strength to face it. In which case, I think that, you know, they need professional help, and that they shouldn't go in for long retreats if they cannot deal with what's going to come up. Some people don't have anything coming up or very nice things coming up. Some people have a lot of fear, a lot of fear. And if you are very mentally stable, you can deal with the fear. But if you're not, then it can, you know, push you over more. But the Buddha always recommended that first we start with shamatha, with calm abiding, to get the mind very well balanced and stabilized, you know, and also to develop that ability to be mindful, to be aware, so that we can witness what comes up without being engulfed in it. You understand?
Bon, bah, je vais vous traduire un bon bout là. Je ferai des petites choses aussi. Alors donc, question 10, vous avez dit à propos des retraites spirituelles, dans les retraites, vous voyez votre nature dans son état nu, cru, et vous devez y faire face. Quel effet peut-on attendre d'une retraite intensive et qu'on ne peut pas attendre d'une pratique de méditation quotidienne? Donc, réponse de Jetsunma. Bien sûr, une longue retraite est beaucoup plus intense et aussi, il n'y a personne sur votre chemin pour vous distraire parce que vous êtes tout seul là-bas dans le lieu de retraite et vous n'avez que ça à faire. Ce n'est que la pratique. C'est comme quelqu'un qui creuse un trou jour et nuit, c'est constant. Pour la plupart des gens, ça n'a pas à être des retraites longues. On a besoin de périodes où on est totalement absorbé dans la pratique. Tout ce que vous avez à faire, c'est d'y penser et vous n'êtes pas emporté par les distractions pour la simple raison qu'il n'y a rien pour vous faire vous enfuir de la pratique. Après ça, quand vous quittez la retraite, vous appliquez ce niveau de conscience dans votre vie quotidienne. C'est comme dans tous les autres domaines. Si vous voulez réellement devenir efficient professionnel, vous avez à consacrer une grande quantité de temps à pratiquer, simplement à pratiquer. Après, vous pouvez supporter votre progrès en pratiquant un petit peu tous les jours. Ensuite, pendant le reste du temps, durant la journée, eh bien, il faut essayer de pratiquer autant que l'on veut, et en particulier en étant conscient et en étant bienveillant, en étant gentil. Donc, question de Louis, d'habitude, on s'enfuit de se faire face envers notre propre nature dans cette vie quotidienne. Cela nous fait peur et comment est-ce qu'on pourrait mieux faire face? C'est une main. Voilà, on arrive au point important. Si nous nous enfuyons parce que, par exemple, nous avons des expériences traumatiques qui remontent et qu'elles reviennent, cela peut être tout à fait sensé d'essayer de faire un traitement de psychothérapie. La méditation et la psychiatrie peuvent aller ensemble s'il y a des problèmes sérieux et si on les fuit parce qu'il se peut que nous n'ayons pas la force d'y faire face et qu'elles reviennent de façon très puissante et nous sommes écrasés par eux. Si on est mentalement instable et on doit être aussi très attentif, très prudent, parce que la méditation pourrait faire ressortir beaucoup de choses. Parfois, on peut dire que le mental est un océan, mais que nous vivons que dans les vagues de surface. Mais après, avec la méditation, on descend en profondeur et là, donc, on quitte juste les petites variations, un peu heureux, un peu malheureux, des vagues. On va plus profondément. Alors, on peut rencontrer des dauphins qui sont sympathiques, des poissons d'or et beaucoup de choses très aimables. Mais il y a aussi des requins et il y a aussi des raies qui nous piquent et toutes les monstres des profondeurs. Et plus on va profond, plus on trouve de choses bizarres auxquelles on ne s'attendait pas. Et à moins qu'on soit très équilibré mentalement, cela peut être de trop, en particulier si les gens ont des monstres des profondeurs dans leur conscience. Donc, de nouveau, il y a des gens qui ont eu des expériences très traumatiques dans leur passé, pendant l'enfance, pendant leur vie, et ils ne savent pas comment y faire face, ou alors ils n'ont pas la force d'y faire face. Dans ce cas, je pense qu'ils ont besoin d'une aide professionnelle. Et elles ne doivent pas aller dans des retraites si longues s'ils ne peuvent pas faire face à ce qui remonte. Il y a des gens qui n'ont rien qui remonte, d'autres ont beaucoup de peur qui remonte. Et si vous êtes très stable, vous pouvez faire face à ces peurs, mais si vous ne l'êtes pas, elles peuvent vous faire basculer encore plus dans le déséquilibre. Dans ce sens, le Bouddha a toujours recommandé de commencer par shamatha, c'est-à-dire la méditation où on demeure dans les calmes, afin d'avoir un esprit très bien équilibré, stabilisé, et aussi d'avoir une habilité d'être conscient, d'être au courant de tout ce que nous pouvons voir et qui remonte sans être engouffré par cela. Donc, on va continuer.
If you have good mindfulness and awareness, we are not the thoughts. We observe the thoughts, but we are not the thoughts. And in that case, if that is strong, then even if very difficult thoughts and feelings come up, we can just observe them and witness them and see their essentially empty nature. This is not me. This is not mine. And then we gain great wisdom. But it requires that we have that inner stability first.
Voilà, donc je vous traduis ce Thibaut. Nous ne sommes pas les pensées, nous observons les pensées, mais nous ne sommes pas elles-mêmes. Et dans ce cas, si on réussit donc à nous renforcer, même des pensées très difficiles ou des sentiments très difficiles, il sera possible de les observer simplement et d'être témoin de la nature essentiellement vide. Ceci n'est pas moi, je ne suis pas l'esprit ou le mental. Alors, nous gagnons une grande sagesse, mais cela a comme précondition d'avoir une stabilité intérieure.
If people have a lot of things, and it's the case of many people, even in meditation or in daily life. So how to deal?
Well, as I say, if you have mental stability, you can deal with it. You can allow this fear to come up and say, hello, fear. what's your problem? What are you afraid of? I'm so sorry. Really, don't worry. Tell me about it. And we give loving kindness and compassion to our fear. Normally, the problem with fear is that we fear the fear and we reject the fear and we try to suppress it. And so it lives down below very, it grows in the darkness. If we allow it into the light and we embrace it with love instead of with fear and aversion, then it can transform.
Question, si les gens ont beaucoup de peur, et c'est le cas de bien des gens dans la vie courante et quand ils se mettent à la méditation, comment se débrouiller avec ces circonstances? Comme je l'ai dit, si vous avez la stabilité mentale, vous pouvez manager ces peurs. Vous pouvez permettre à la peur de remonter et dire « Bonjour, peur, quel est ton problème? De quoi as-tu peur? Je suis désolé, en réalité, ne te fais pas de soucis, dis-moi ce qui se passe. » Et on va donner de la bienveillance et de la compassion à notre peur. Normalement, le problème avec la peur, c'est que nous avons peur de la peur. Nous rejetons la peur, nous essayons de la refouler. Ainsi, cela la pousse en dessous et elle continue à croître dans l'obscurité. Si nous permettons à la peur de remonter à la lumière et que nous l'embrassons avec de l'amour à la place de l'aversion et de la peur, alors nous pouvons la transformer. Normalement, nous cherchons à échapper à la peur. Exactly. C'est exactement ce qui se passe. Nous avons peur. Parce que nous avons peur de la peur, nous gagnons une peur redoublée. Mais si avec la pratique, nous sommes capables de donner de l'espace pour que la peur remonte, sans sentiment de la peur, mais plutôt la compassion pour cette peur et l'affection pour cette peur. Et si nous écoutons ce qu'elle veut nous dire, alors elle peut se dissoudre. C'est comme un nuage. Si nous leur donnons beaucoup de ciel, ils vont graduellement se dissoudre. La peur n'est pas une chose en elle-même, c'est juste une condition différente qui se rassemble. Ce n'est pas quelque chose de solide et d'existant en soi. Je pense qu'on va lui laisser la parole.
Normally we escape from fear.
Exactly, and that's why we have fear. Because we're afraid of the fear. So we have double fear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But if we are able, because of our practice, to give space for that fear to come up without feeling fear for the fear, but, compassion for that fear and affection for that fear and wanting to listen to what it wants to tell us, then it can dissolve. It's like a thick black cloud. If we give it lots of sky, it will gradually dissolve. Because it's not a thing in itself. It's just, different mental conditions coming together. It's not something real and self-existent.
We have to accept ourselves. If we have fears, to accept our fears.
Yes, yes. I mean, first of all, we say, well, there is fear. We recognize it. Then we accept the fact, right now, I have fear. And then we allow the fear.
Voilà, donc, question dans un premier temps, nous devons donc accepter leur peur. Et d'abord, nous devons l'accepter, la reconnaître et ensuite accepter le fait juste maintenant, j'ai peur. Et ensuite, nous pouvons lui permettre de se dissoudre. Donc voilà, donc de nouveau 5 minutes de pause. On va attaquer la troisième partie de l'interview. On reprend dans
And you
5
have
minutes.
to stabilize it until it becomes